My name is Jake Archivar, and today I'm going to be talking about cholera deaths and the data that goes along with it from what John Snow talked about in the 1850s in the UK. The first thing we're going to look at in my application is death and attacks of cholera via date. You can see here that on the date you get the attacks that happened on that day as well as the deaths that happened on that day, and I added a column to it that has the total attacks, which just keeps continuously adding them every time they happen, and total deaths. As you can see from the data, as you continue to scroll down, these were the trouble dates where a lot of things happen, and by the end of it, obviously there are 616 deaths and 571 attacks. The next thing you see is this same data, but now represented in a line chart. So we have a count here of deaths and attacks, and then we have 4 different lines, each representing one thing. Red is attacks on that day, and you can see its spike right there. Green is deaths on that day, which is around in the middle of September, it spikes. Total attacks is this blue line, and then total deaths is this purple line, which you see obviously grows and then stops at the end. The next set of data we looked at was men and women who were infected with cholera, and it was separated via age group. As you can see here, there is the age groups from 0 to 1 to older than 80, and then males and females. And as you can see, it kind of got a little high, around 2 to 10 years of age, but then it was obviously way higher from 61 to past 80. And you can see this also represented well in a bar chart for men and a bar chart for women, where you can see the number of infected here on the left sides and then the age groups on the bottom. As you can see too, interestingly, there's no real difference between men and women, signifying that gender doesn't really have a part in getting infected or dying from cholera. The next thing we looked at was actually a census of the total amount of men and women via age group in the UK in 1851, and this usually just comes with these 3 things, which is the age groups again, and then the total females and males that are represented for those age groups from 0 to over 80 again. However, I added a total female thing that just keeps adding up, so you could get the total amount of females in the UK at the very end, as well as one for total male. And what you can see here from these pie charts is obviously there's a lot of kids who are young. 0 to 9 is a big part of this graph, but then when you get to 80 plus, there's barely even a sliver, and then 70 to 79 is the sliver as well. And you can see the same thing for women over here. And I have the totals on the left side for you, and then separated via the numbers by the age groups. And you can see again, interestingly, there isn't much of a difference between male and female, thus representing that there isn't a difference in gender, and gender doesn't play a huge role. You can also see this data represented very well in our bar charts, one for men, one for women. Again, the same thing on the bottom with the age groups here, and then the count on the left side, the number of males. And you can see again 0 to 9 is way above everything else, with 80 plus barely having anything, and it steadily declines. Next, I have a total men versus total women pie charts. This is just using the numbers that we added up at the end. You can see here the total population in the UK was this number, and then here's how it broke down. So you could see there's more females than men, which goes along with everything in history as well as today. However, cholera doesn't really have a part in killing off more men than not, because it's pretty much just along with average standards, and there wasn't that much of a disparity. And then lastly, I have a leaflet map of the deaths and water pumps, and as you can see here, if you scroll over each one of these, it will say either death or pump, and you can see all the deaths are pretty much within these pumps, and there's not really any outside. This is the farthest one being outside, and so they're mainly like circulated around these middle pumps, which is very interesting. And you can move around this map, zoom in, zoom out, do whatever you want with it, but this shows all the deaths and all the pumps.